Yes, Isengard Abridged, innit? And last time, we saw 2 battles at Helm's Deep, where both times the enemy got into the castle, but were defeated, so Rohan are kept at bay. We had some stalemate against Enedwaith, but eventually pushed out and actually took some of their original territory, so that's some form of progress. Why stop there? We need to keep going to somehow win this war. So Saruman moves out of Karas. I was going to go to the southwest, but we're actually going to go towards that place in the northwest, because I don't know where the town is in the enemy region to our southwest, and I don't have an easy way of finding it, so I'll just go for the target I know about. Or I won't, because this happens. Enedwaith pulls their classic trick. They've got a load of guys just somehow there at Karas all of a sudden, so we need to go back and deal with that. They're also still reinforcing at Breakness, so my plan to take that at some point isn't going very well. So yes, we come back here. I get some cav who I had sent out to capture an enemy fort to reinforce, and here we go, we've got a battle. The enemy don't have anything particularly special, but it would be nice to kill them really efficiently, since I do want to go on and conquer more enemy territory. They do have a load of these clansmen who, as I've mentioned previously, suck. They have super low stats. I don't know if there's anything with lower stats in the game, but they seem to suck. The fight started with a bit of a skirmish. I'm sure their archers are better than mine, but I have more archers, and their archers were spending a lot of time doing not much. So we came off better, I think, after an exchange of arrows, but then they just ran at me, so I started running at them. And there are those clansmen I mentioned, going up against my Bane Guard. They have no chance, and they seem to recognise that and immediately run away, so that's a good start to the fight. This is going to be a messy one because I can't really see what's going on due to the lighting, and the enemy are just running all over the place. They've got various units on skirmish mode, so going to be a load of chasing and hoping we actually defeat the enemy in melee when we can catch them, like here. My Uruk raiders coming in as reinforcements caught those clansmen trying to go in the opposite direction. These units of two-handed axemen are going to be nice and vulnerable to arrow attacks, so we can kill them quite quickly. They're already on wavering morale. Basically the enemy routed after not too much, and then we just have to chase them off the field and try and pick ourselves up the 85% kills. The fact we have a unit of light cav means that's not all that difficult. We lost about 50 men over the course of the battle, killed about 1,000, and the rest got deleted, so that's the end of that. A successful defense. Now we might as well sit in the town to make some more money this turn, and then perhaps we'll go back to my offensive plan in the future. I have recruited a spy in this settlement, and that allows us to finally take a look at Enedwaith's territory. I had been using my diplomat to do this, but that's very slow. We very quickly here discover a fort garrisoned with some troops, and a town which is their capital, including their faction leader. Not all that far away, but we don't have the strength to go and take it, basically, especially if the nearby forces consolidate when we get close to it. So we'll go on with the original plan, that is to move west. Although I was at this stage thinking, surely southwest is better, because if we go southwest, that's much more strategic, we're less overextending ourselves. But there's still that question of just not knowing where we actually need to go to take that southwestern region. There's one other option, and that is to march north right into the enemy's heartland and try to deal a decisive blow alongside our allies. I didn't want to do that in the end though, because we know their main force is up there somewhere because it went there 2 turns ago or something like that at this point. In the end then, I go with something resembling the original plan. I started going to the southwest region, but then some enemies appeared, and that's more than enough excuse to switch back to going northwest. These enemies don't prove to be very powerful. They have quite a few numbers, but we slaughter them easily with auto-resolve, and that's them dead. But interestingly, a few survivors retreated to the south there, and the fact they didn't retreat towards the Lond Angren place up there made me think, is there a settlement closer, just in the fog of war near those mountains? With that hope, I did decide to go south for a bit. Meanwhile, on the eastern front, a Rohan army teleports in. The game has stopped showing me Rohan's movements for some reason. But anyway, a big stack just besieged Hornburg. We've still got stuff there, so that's just that situation happening again, as it's done a couple of times now. We've also got a siege with the Dunlendings attacking Bregness. It would be nice if they took it, because they're allied to us and that would reduce some threat, but it doesn't look like they'll be able to with the force they've got there. Here's a little look at the latest Rohan army to try and take Hornburg. Lots of cav again, so they're going to have the same weakness as they had before. Well, not really a weakness. If we can hold the gate, we can hold the castle, and if we can stop the enemy from being able to get in, then we'll win by default, like we did in the previous battle after a while. Anyway, Saruman is now going to go to the northwest again, because my spy didn't see anything particularly good to the south, and this place up to the northwest is so deliciously undefended, plus I can stand on a bridge for this turn, which makes me feel nice and safe. Then when I hit end turn, the attack on Helm's Deep happens, so it's time for the third Great Battle of Helm's Deep. Plenty of enemy soldiers, but they're going to be narrowly confined into that causeway. And this time, I was thinking, let's make a greater effort to try and stop these guys actually getting in. If we can defeat the ram or defeat the infantry before it gets to the gate, we don't have to worry about the cav. However, looking at the enemy's infantry, it looks like they've brought a higher tier of unit than we've seen before. They've got some actual good ones. This time around, I tried putting some archers down on the Deeping Wall, but this place has the same problem as the main castle, where the wall just in front of where you can deploy is too big, so your men have to shoot up to try and hit anything, and that means they don't really hit anything unless they're shooting things that are very far away. Now only a very small unit was pushing the ram this time around, so I sent out some berserkers to try and very quickly kill them before they reached the gate. I was leaving things a bit late actually, you can see they're already close to the gate, and having a bit more distance would be good so we can get away from the gate and have it actually close for us. You can see I was here giving movement orders to try and push everyone forwards just a little bit. That does happen, and the gate does close, so it can be done. We've finally achieved it. The enemy are now still locked out, the ram has been dropped, and our berserkers will easily kill the few militia holding it. However, now that the berserkers are out there, the enemy are attacking them with a bunch of cav and horse archers. Meanwhile, their other infantry are setting up to attack the wall. Not so worried about that because the men we have defending that position should be enough to hold them off. The enemy general dies fighting our berserkers, or their captain I should say, so that's nice. And our archers were being quite good in this fight because the enemy have lots of horse archers out there, and because they're far away enough from the wall, our archers can shoot them quite effectively. Over time then, we will be whittling them down. As for our berserkers, we're now facing some Helmingas, some powerful archer units actually, although they're quite good in melee as well, and some cav who are kind of stuck, unable to attack us. I think the ram being there is keeping our berserkers alive because the enemy can't push past the ram to attack us properly. And actually things start going the other way. We're barely losing any berserkers and we're pushing forwards and gradually killing the enemy's heavy troops, and their cav aren't doing any good either. Overall, this is looking okay. Plus our archers are doing quite a lot of damage to the enemy's cav at the back there. It's kind of hard to tell, but we've killed lots of horse archers and some enemy cav units that were just standing around as well. You can see there are tons of bodies on the floor over here, and there'll be more to come. And those horse archers weren't doing very much damage to my berserkers because of the angle they were shooting at. They were probably hitting their own men quite a lot as well, I would imagine. So that's all great news. The fighting on the wall is pretty standard stuff. We're able to win just because our units have an advantage defending the wall. We can hit enemy models as they come across from multiple directions and they tend to die quite quick, even with our stats not being that good. So things are looking alright over there. It's all about these berserkers and they are getting the job done. We may have lost about half of them here, but we've killed virtually all of this Helmingas unit, which I think is supposed to be an elite Rohan unit, so that's good. I guess berserkers are the Uruk-hai elite unit, so maybe that all makes sense. But yes, we have stopped the enemy's attack. One thing that's becoming clear is that they're not going to be able to grab that ram. Their infantry are dying off fast, so no matter what happens with this battle on the causeway, we have destroyed the enemy's chances of actually ramming the gate. So we took out the Helmingas, then they attacked with some cav, and they are not going to have a very good time either. They killed a few of us, but we took out all of their unit. There go the fleeing Helmingas. So things are looking alright. They are not getting in. After I took out those cav, I thought let's destroy the ram and finish this off. However, they do still have horse archers shooting at me, so this isn't the best idea, mainly because destroying the ram takes a real long time. And I eventually realised they do have 2 rams in this battle. They also have another half of an army. They've only attacked me with the first half of their force. The rest are waiting at the back of the map here, and also right at the back they've got another ram. So that means destroying the ram won't really help, and as I said, we've almost destroyed all of their ram pushers, or their potential ram pushers, so we don't need to worry that much about clearing the ram off the causeway. With that in mind, I decided to pull these heroic berserkers back. They have certainly earned a bit of life. They have taken out about half the enemy's army on their own, just fighting on that causeway. I'm sure the ram being there helped in some way. Then, I just sit here on 6 times speed as the enemy funnel all of their infantry up through the siege tower and into one of my general's bodyguard units. They gradually die, and eventually the battle just ends because we kill so much infantry that all of their infantry was routing at the same time, and the game says, well, you can't push the ram anymore, so that's the end of that. All of their cav just don't get used, or the cav that hadn't been committed, that is, don't get used. That's the result then. We lost like 60 guys, the enemy lost half their army. That's what I'm talking about. We took a very small number of captives, and because I'm feeling generous, I allow Rohan to buy them back off me. And by generous I mean poor. We still desperately need money. On the topic of money, in the next turn I was looking at the finances, noting that we are currently losing money, so not making any economic progress. And the issue is that to deploy any more forces out of the fort they're currently sitting around in costs even more because we lose the free upkeep bonus thing. But I did want to send some units to Bregnas to support our allies. I want our allies to actually get that capture, so we're going to help them in a very surprisingly pro-man move. This campaign continues to be suspicious to Sauron, I expect. Now at Karas there's like 2 half-dead enemy units going for it, and there's a chance they'll actually be able to take it, which is pretty annoying. So I'm going to send the cav back from our main army to go and garrison it. We know we'll have enough time to reach it because the enemy need some siege stuff to get in. Looks like stuff's been recruited at Lond Angren, so it won't be a complete walkover. That's a shame. My spy is continuing to search for the mythical enemy settlement down here, and after looking around for a while, we finally locate it. So it's just really far away from our border with them. But it's a nice little settlement, a nice castle by the sea that's far away from everything else, meaning if we have it, then the enemy will take a long time to come and take it out, and presumably won't even have line of sight on it. Anyway, we're going to go for Lond Angren right now. Not much inside, but our army's not much either, so we shouldn't be too complacent. And as for Karas, I also put together half a unit from that Gwyn village, which is now just about under control in terms of public order, so they'll walk over there as well. After an uneventful end turn, well, something went wrong for the Dunlendings. The Endwaith main force that I was so fearing has appeared and taken out our allies. At least it looks like they've lost half their men in the process, so that will help us out, but still. That's another failed push for Bregnas. Is that like 4 or 5 now? Our troops go home once again. We still need more troops to push down that road. Over at Karas, the enemy army did not attack as I expected, so we could either go after them or do what I'm actually going to do, and that is just go and garrison the town because they're feeling quite rebellious and we've got basically nothing there. This really is an issue with us pushing into enemy territory with only a few units. Every time we take a place, we have to lose more units to garrison it. At least at this Lond place, we can just auto-resolve it and kill that garrison with minimal losses. That looked good. We'll sack the settlement, get some cash, and that's that. It's all under control. But as I said, our overextension is extreme at the moment. We have like no troops defending this big swath of territory we've taken, and if the enemy send anything, we'll just lose it again. So the question of moving on to defeat this army right here, which is what I need to do to kind of progress in this campaign, probably isn't going to come up. We probably aren't going to have a chance against them. In fact, there's probably something even between us and them that could kill us first. So, with that in mind, I started thinking, we don't necessarily have to actually defend this location. You might have seen me moving the camera down south there and thinking, what can we do with this situation? We'll come back to that, because actually this turn, I went out with one general to put a watchtower on the edge of our territory, and walked into an enemy army. This guy's got some meat and nothing else, at least his menu's looking good. I have a no Uruk left behind policy, of course, so I do send everyone else out to save him. We push the enemy back, get that watchtower we so desired. I don't care about killing those enemies, so I'm going to just start moving back to the settlement. And now I'm starting to seriously think there's no point holding this settlement. We can't have it. We might as well have exterminated the population when we took it. So let's not repair things as I started to do there, because you can destroy buildings and that does give you money, so we could effectively just sell this town for parts to get some cash, presuming that we're going to lose it anyway, and then go away. Here's another attempt at peace with Enedwaith. They are not at all interested, even if I give them tons of cash. Now we push on. In this end turn sequence, again, not very much happens. We've had a lot of quiet end turns recently. But we've got bad news coming in at the start of the next one. It seems that Gondor are succeeding against Mordor. They've pushed on and retaken North Ithilien. That's the place to the northeast of where Osgiliath is. So that's bad news. Hopefully Mordor will be able to bounce back. Or maybe it's good news. Our ally are succeeding and maybe they'll defeat Mordor for us. Depends how you look at it with that one. At Lond Angren, everything must go. I start going through the buildings and deleting them. You get some cash and a really annoying loud sound every time you do this. You can't destroy everything, like you can't destroy the roads, but we can make a few thousand in cash doing this and ruin the settlement, so when the enemy take it back, it won't be worth as much to them. Plus, the enemy won't necessarily take it back because we can slap them on a very high tax rate, meaning they'll definitely rebel. So as long as I leave one unit there this turn, so that Enedwaith can't take it back immediately, it will turn into a rebel settlement and that will spawn an army to guard it. Thus, by leaving just one unit behind, we should be creating several units with which to resist Enedwaith counterattacks. Now we are getting serious. Anyway, Saruman and his troops are going to try and go back south. More Enedwaith armies appear, but we easily defeat them. They've just got units all over the place, hidden in every forest for some reason. But my goal is to push through all this and go and take that place down to the south, that nice little hidden resort. I like the idea of having that. So that will be the last project of this army, because after that we don't really have any strength left. I feel like this attack has done some good damage to Enedwaith though. We've taken 2 of their towns, which is pretty nice, and wrecked one of them. I got some cash off that, as I said, and that means I can finally make a building. It's been a long time since we put any cash into the economy. All of my settlements don't have any buildings, basically. We've been spending all of our money constantly on units, and this is no exception. I'm making even more. I can't afford to upkeep them, but we are deficit spending. It's tax and spend, only without the taxing, so that's extra good. Anyway, in the next turn, we push on again with Saruman's force, but it's actually going to split out now, leaving Saruman behind. So I'll send just those 4 units and a general to go and try to take that town down there, hoping they can achieve this, while Saruman is going to try and sneak back to our core territory, because I'd like him to be back there in case we can ever put together something that looks like a main force. I want him to lead it, our newest army. This does mean trying to get past the random units that are around the place. However, in principle, we can be out of their line of sight because we can put Saruman in trees. As mentioned previously, I don't really know how the hiding mechanic works, but it works sometimes, and this is a turn where it works. I'm able to hide in those trees there, so now they can't attack me. That's nice. We hit end turn, and bang, Lond Angren is taken by rebels, and a few units of them as well, so that's great news, and at the same time some bad news. A single unit of Rohan troops that was hanging around Foldberg multiplies and lays siege to the town. Luckily we already have troops nearby thanks to my recruiting spree, so it's not all that bad. There's the revolt news, and here is some bad news. Minas Morgul is under attack, presumably by Gondor. So after they took Northern Ithilien, they're now pushing into Mordor. It seems Gondor have the momentum now. This could be bad news for the Dark Lord, which could be good news for us, admittedly. So my forces carry on south to this random coastal resort. Luckily they haven't recruited anything new into it, so these units should be enough to take the place, and we can take our time because it will take the enemy forever to reinforce this position, so we can even siege them out if we really want. As for Saruman, no hiding this turn. I decided to just try and leg it back towards the nearest settlement and see what would happen. We've also got that Rohan force to kill, and with all of my new units I can easily deploy an army to fight them, but this is going to be very difficult for our finances, because all the units were sitting in forts, or in positions where they had free upkeep. So by taking units out of these forts, we're suddenly losing a couple of thousand extra per turn, but I am still going to do this. You can see I'm deploying most of my troops to actually go west instead of east, to go and try to take Bregnus once and for all, now with a decisive force that should be able to take it even with its heavy garrison. Money looks real bad over there in the treasury screen, but we can try to do something about that. We need to first lift the siege of Foldberg, and for that I take a few troops from Hornburg to go up there. We've already seen we don't really need this big an army to defend Hornburg, because usually a lot of the troops aren't used in the fight. So it's okay to leave it unguarded even if Rohan show up. Rohan don't like me by the looks of things. We've only just got our relations down to poor somehow. We had neutral relations with them up until now, I guess. Anyway, we lift that siege of Foldberg, and then after thinking about it for a while for some reason, I just auto-resolve the survivors and they die. So that's good, gets us a bit of money. But the real thing we need to do is get as many troops as possible back into a fort so we don't have to pay their upkeep for this turn. And a lot of these troops can do that, so we race back over there to the west with these troops. The former garrison of Foldberg will go over there as well, and the troops from Hornburg will be the new garrison. Overall then, that saves us some cash, and things next turn won't be too disastrous. The turn after that, well, we're not thinking about the turn after that. Enidwaith do send some troops to attack Saruman here, and I think I missed a trick. What I should have done is just retreat, because we don't need to face them. But I was like, ooh, we could actually kill these guys, and wasn't thinking that if I retreated, I would actually be moving closer to my destination. This could be a chance to get some free movement points in the right direction. But I don't take it. I was going to fight it, but eventually decided to auto-resolve. Even though the balance bar isn't that good, I thought Saruman won't die and his troops just regenerate. And in fact, the auto-resolve was really good. We barely lost anything. So there we go, we've showed Enidwaith something. They sent more troops to come and stand next to Saruman after this, but this group does not dare attack. Although they are still reinforcing Bregnas, which is annoying to see. So Saruman makes it back to Karas. There I'm actually building an armory. That costs most of my money. The armory allows you to have a garrison if the town is attacked. So the plan is I'll fall back from Karas, but possibly still try and defend it if Enidwaith show up. Meanwhile, things are getting a bit bad over here with Rohan, because more and more stuff is building up right outside our settlements. We've got 1.5 stacks now queuing to attack Hornburg, and our garrison has recently been made smaller by my attempts to defend Foldberg, but Foldberg is now also being threatened by a massive army. By the looks of things, the enemy's economic advantage is finally being used against us. In response, I'm going to fall back from Foldberg. Our chance of defending it is minimal, but we might be able to defend the bridge that's next to it with our small force. We do have a unit of pikes as well, so if we can channel the enemy across the bridge, maybe something good will happen there. It does mean that Foldberg is going to be at the enemy's mercy, unfortunately. Now, for the Bregnas situation, an added element has appeared. A Dunlanding army has jumped in, and the Enidwaith forces have split up a little bit, including an army outside the town, meaning we can send in our big force for this battle. We need to lose a lot of troops here to save enough money, but we can also kill a lot of enemy troops potentially. It's a siege drawout, and the Dunlanding troops will be our allies in the fight, so this is going to be a nice decisive battle to decide the fate of Brengus and our finances at least. We'll see. Perhaps this will decide the fate of Middle-earth through the butterfly effect. We'll have to look at this in the next part, of course, where we'll also have to actually face down that massive Rohan invasion.